this video, we're going to talk about how to install Arbor Wood siding. You're going to learn about why we recommend a vented rainscreen-style assembly. We're here with Max from Logome Builders, a premium residential contractor here in Minnesota. Let's get into it.
Arbor Wood is a natural wood product. It's sustainably sourced, and like any natural wood product, it needs to have airspace behind it in order to dry properly, to maintain a finish and to maintain the integrity of the wood. One of the aspects of that involves preparing for water intrusion and extrusion, meaning water that can make it in and water that can make it out. It always happens, there's no preventing it, but you can abate it to some extent. And an important thing to remember then are your portal flashings. Any openings for windows and doors are crucial. And in this case, this window opening here, we've flashed with Grace Vicor Plus, a bituminous water resistive barrier meant for flashing windows. And we've installed it according to manufacturer's installation procedures. What is a rain screen? Well, a rain screen is a siding assembly that allows airspace behind a wood cladding or a metal cladding or any type of cladding. A rain screen is a system of vertical furring over studs, over the weather resistive or water resistive barrier and over studs. That allows airflow to move from cold to warm and cycle through the wall. That aids in drying. It also provides a space where if there's water infiltration, the surface tension of water is broken and water will run out and come out the bottom. So in this assembly, we've got an air permeable, one-way air permeable, water resistive barrier. This is allowing the house to breathe outwards. That's good for the house. We have 1/2-inch plywood furring, which is less common than what most people use, is 3/8 lath. The reality is 3/8 to 1/2 inch of furring is just about the sweet spot for airflow, for some pressure changing effects of forcing air up, forcing air down, keeping it circulating. You don't want too big of a gap because the air will be less likely to be forced out under pressure. Pressure changes being wind, new weather systems, whatever. This is okay as long as the wall has an ample opportunity to dry regularly. If you're in an incredibly humid climate, I would use something more like a pine or a cedar furring. Or in the case of Coravent, which is this vent strip here, they manufacture a vertical furring strip that allows air to flow horizontally as well. So here we have cedar along the window, and this is because the Arbor Wood is going to be an architectural rain screen, and it's going to be without trim. And so we have to prepare for water infiltration. That's kind of highlighted by the information we gave on proper flashing details around a portal. At the bottom, we have a base flashing made of the same type of steel that is secured and taped either on top of and taped or underneath and taped to the weather resistive barrier or the wall sheathing, with the weather resistive barrier lapping over. We also have venting on the bottom. That's held at 1/16 of an inch off of the flashing to allow airflow underneath and up. And these vent strips have an insect screen that prevents any insects from crawling up into your rain screen assembly. We also vent below the window. That allows air to come out, air to go in, drying to occur if water infiltrates below the window, which always happens. So these are vertical furring. Vertical furring is meant for horizontal cladding. So a horizontal siding, horizontal shiplap arbor wood, horizontal tongue and groove arbor wood. If you're going to apply vertical products, so your arbor wood vertically, you need to have a counter batten system. And that involves additional furring on top of this furring, perpendicular to it, so that your siding is mounted like this. And that also keeps the airspace consistent and allows for drying. The importance of having your furring above the studs is because when you put Arbor Wood cladding on, you're adding weight to the exterior of your house. If you use your lath or your furring strips from plywood or the core vent furring strips or whatever you use, breather mats, any of that, you need to make sure that you're fastening your furring or your cladding through the furring into the framing member. If you don't do that, you're loading the sheathing and there's a chance that it may slump, it may come off the wall. All right, let's talk about fasteners. As you can see on this wall assembly, this temporary wall assembly for demonstration purposes, we've used a stainless steel cabinet screw to attach our furring. Typically, you would use a stainless steel siding nail or a crown staple to attach the furring through the sheathing to the stud. That would occur along the windows here with the cedar. That would also occur on any of your furring, as well as your venting. Okay, now we're going to install some of Arbor Wood's 4 3/4 reveal thermally modified southern yellow pine tongue and groove wall cladding. We're going to use a stainless steel screw, 2.5 inch or 2 inch trim screw. It's going to be toe screwed at the top, and this first course is going to be face screwed at the bottom. It's important to remember that thermally modified is an incredibly resilient product, but it can be vulnerable to cracking on the end grain. It's wise to pre-drill your holes. Your first row, from the flashing to your first piece of cladding, is a foundational row. It's important that you maintain plumb, level, and square, and you consistently check for those things. So here, you want to use the largest level that you have that will fit. The longer the level, the more accurate your level line will be. It's common for people to use very short levels and step them off. Don't do it. Get a good long level. And here we can see that we are dead level. So this row will dictate how accurate our subsequent rows are, and then we'll check again a few rows in. Okay, now we've got a few rows on here, well, more than a few, and we are successfully toe screwing them, pre-drilling. And now we've got a situation where we have our portal opening, right? And we have a trimless application of this. And so this is going to butt consistently to the window, stepped off either a 32nd or a 16th of an inch evenly. And that means that this next course, which is ever so slightly too large for the opening, has to be scribed to the proper depth. In this case, we are going to be less than about an eighth plus, or a fat eighth, below the window. And for my tolerances in this application on this mock-up wall, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Well, as you can see, here's our piece of Arbor Wood with a notch that fits nicely around the window. And the notch, serendipitously, ends up being the same reveal as a reveal between our pieces of tongue and groove Arbor Wood here. One other thing to remember is when you split joints, the center of your board needs to land on the center of your furring. So for instance, where two joints come together, you need to give them a solid bearing surface in the joint for fastening. Okay, that's our last piece of Arbor Wood cladding on this wall assembly mock-up. In closing, I think you'd really like working with Arbor Wood. It's an impressive product. It's sustainably sourced. It's dimensionally stable. All the edible bits of the wood that are susceptible to insects are essentially modified at the cellular level. There's nothing to eat, there's nothing to rot. It makes an incredibly beautiful architectural rain screen.